Welcome back to the Metro on 1019 WDET FM. I'm Tia Graham. A truly great coach can do more than teach fundamentals and blow a whistle. They can change lives and even communities. That was true for D.L. Holmes. He was the athletic director, track and cross-country coach at Wayne State University from 1917 to 1958. In a time when segregation in sports was the norm, Holmes coached athletes of all races and backgrounds. His coaching was a radical act. The folks he coached and mentored went on to do tremendous things. He coached 3 Olympians, 1 gold medalist, 11 All-Americans. Holmes was instrumental in 9 national championship wins and 4 world record holders. Born and raised on a farm in Oklahoma, Holmes understood hard work and made sure all people from all backgrounds had a place and a voice on his teams. Keith D. Wunderlich is the co-author of Coach of Champions. The book highlights the story of D.H. Holmes and his contributions to the Wayne State University track team and beyond. Keith, welcome to the Metro.
Oh, thanks so much. It's so great to be here.
Thank you. So before we go into who Holmes was and, more importantly, the impact that he had on the world of sports, let's talk briefly about D.L. Holmes, the man who helped co-author this book, David L. Holmes Jr.
Jr., my uncle, right?
Your uncle.
Yes. So he was a professor at William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia, and wrote a lot of books. And so he had always had this side project to write a book about his dad. And then maybe about 5 years ago, he ended up in assisted living. And so I would visit him there. But every time I saw him, I'd say, so how's that book going? Because I really wanted to read it.
Yeah.
And he eventually said, I just don't think it's going to happen. And so I asked if I could take it over. And when I did, I looked at it, and actually it was not a book about Coach Holmes. It was about a book about Coach Watson, which was a fictional character. I go, well, wait a second. So he had written a fictional book kind of based on his dad, but not factual necessarily. And so, but what he had done in the process was he, in the 90s and 2000s, early 2000s, had interviewed many of the athletes from my grandfather's teams. And so I used those interviews, the transcripts of those interviews. Every other chapter is one of my uncle's interviews. So that work was invaluable because those stories would have been lost had my uncle not done all that legwork decades ago.
Man, and those stories, those conversations that he had with the former athletes were really lovely conversations, and they were funny, and they were also inspiring, but they were also very laced with so much information and knowledge about who Coach Holmes was to them and the impact that he had on the city. But you picked up that book, that research, like you said, from your late uncle. What was it like adding to his work and sifting through all that information in those interviews that you were going through? What was it like seeing that information?
It was wonderful. My grandfather died when I was 3, so I don't have any memories of him. The only things that I know about him are the stories I heard from my mom and my uncle. And then occasionally I would, meet one of his athletes, at some event and hear about it. That's when you really listen, when you wish when you're older that you'd listen better when you were younger.
Yes.
I really wish I'd listened to my mom more while she was alive. But it was incredible. I got to know my grandfather through doing all this research, and it was incredible. I'd heard the stories, and sometimes stories are better than the reality. The reality is better than the stories. It was unbelievable, the things that he did.
Reading through the book, same thing. I just said, oh my gosh, like this man was so much larger than I think he even knew at the time, because of the things that he was doing so revolutionary in 1912, 1916, 1918, which is, when you think about that time, it's hard to even put yourself in that time. You've brought some track shoes in here as well that are from a while ago.
Yes, they're and I realize this is radio and people can't see them, but picture ballet slippers with 1-inch spikes sticking out of the front of them. They're awful. Yet he had guys beating world records wearing things like this.
Like
it's
that.
Unbelievable.
It's an unbelievable shoe. We'll make sure to get a photo and post it on our socials for you all to see. But let's get to reality. What did he do? What made him so remarkable, D.L. Holmes?
One of the things that he could do was recognize talent and recognize talent in people that didn't necessarily think that they had talent. He had no scholarship money whatsoever to deal with, and so he was competing against universities that did. So he would go to a lot of track meets, a lot of Detroit City track meets and high school track meets, and watch kids run. And he knew he wouldn't get the first place finisher because U of M or Purdue or Michigan State, somebody would pick them up because they had money to pick them up. So he would look at the second place guy or the third place guy and turn them into a champion or possibly even an Olympian, NCAA champion. It was uncanny. One of his big success stories was a tennis player that came to Wayne State, and he had also been on his high school track team, but had done nothing consequential, and turned him into a world record holding hurdling star for both the high and low hurdles. And had there been Olympics during World War II, he probably would have been both, the 1940 and 1944 Olympics. So unbelievable what he was able to do. And also he had no facilities. That's one of the wildest things. There were no athletic facilities. Wayne, when he first got there, was Detroit Junior College, which was inside Central High School, which was Old Main. So it was, Old Main was Central High School at the time, and they just started this junior college in there, and that's where my grandfather began. And they had a couple of little small high school gyms, a girls' gym and a boys' gym. There was an elevated track in the boys' gym because the girls' gym, women were also discriminated against horribly. So there was only a track in the boys' gym because it was thought to be too exhausting for women.
Brother. Oh, brother.
So they didn't add that in the girls' gym. It took 22 laps to make a mile. And for people who don't know track, normally it's 4.
4. Oh, my gosh.
22 laps to make a mile in that gym. So basically you're doing a circle the entire time. And he didn't have an outdoor track, so he just made do with what he could. They ran indoor track meets on those tile hallways in Old Main.
And there's an excerpt in the book where he takes some of the players, some of the track and field players, he takes them out to a newly built track at the old Redford High School.
Right,
and
yes.
then he determined, hey, it's actually a little smaller than it's supposed to be. It's not actually regulation. But that was the first time that his athletes said, this is a real track.
Right.
Wow.
This is what it's supposed to look
Yeah.
like. Right. They're a little jealous.
Yeah.
He was a little jealous. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. But were having record times that whole track season. And he said, well, something's not right.
Something's off here.
So we measured it was just a little bit short.
Yes. And it did actually cause quite a stir with the Detroit public school system who built the track, who said, oh, I think we did mess up.
Right.
We messed up. But just referring back to D.L. Holmes and his impact on so many people, we were talking just a little bit, and he was instrumental in making sure that all players played, not just the white players. He made sure that everyone had a place on his teams. And there was an excerpt once again from one of the players, and he just talked about being a black kid running cross country and how he was told in the past, black kids don't run cross country, or black kids don't run
distance.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And he said, not to D.L. Holmes.
Right.
Not to D.L. Holmes.
No, he recognized talent. He would put people in races that were maybe not why they thought they came to Wayne. John Telford is maybe the most recent of those, which is the late 1950s, and he was a 100-yard dash guy. Never had lost a 100-yard dash in high school. And my grandfather said, "You're 440," which now is the 400-meter, but the 440-yard dash. And he would have been in the 1956 Olympics in that event had he not torn a muscle. But so he could look at people and know they were going to be good at things. And you're right, he didn't care if you were white, black. And there was religious, there was anti-Semitism. Even Catholics were discriminated against.
Yeah.
Some universities wouldn't accept Catholics. It's strange, to even think about some of those things today. But my grandfather just didn't care. He was looking for talent, and he could see talent. And like I said, people might have thought their talent was in the short dashes, and he'd put them in something else because he saw that they could do it.
He saw what he saw, which was amazing to just read through the book and see him just pick through and watch a person and say, oh, you know what? We're going to put you in shot put, or you know what? We're going to do this with you. This is the Metro. I'm Tia Graham. We're speaking with the co-author of Coach of Champions, detailing the life and times of D.L. Holmes. Now, what do you think? Why do you think your grandfather was so open and so accepting?
He grew up very poor, and I think that was a common element that when he came to Detroit, that he just kind of gravitated to people that were like him, which he really saw the common element as being poor. And Wayne at the time was called a streetcar school, where everybody came to the school on the streetcar. No one stayed here. There were no dorms. There was nothing like that. So you lived at home and you came to college during the day. And there was a night school as well. And it was a less expensive alternative to some of the other colleges. So I think that he had a great connection with anybody that had that same kind of poor upbringing and could relate to him, because that's what he did. His grandfather was also a minister, and his father was very influenced by that and taught acceptance, taught that no one's better than anybody else. And he was used to being discriminated against because of his being poor. And he didn't like that and didn't think that was the way to treat other people, and so he didn't, and he made sure that just people got those things that they deserved. The very first black captain of a team at Wayne State was the captain of the track team in 1929.
Unheard of. This is the Depression year. That's the year the Depression happened, 1929.
Yeah. And not that was, civil rights wasn't even really a thing, and yet here's a black captain. They ate together, they slept together. It was he would not. Some other teams would separate their black players for eating and for hotels, and Coach Holmes said, "No, we're not doing that. We're not separating. It's all of us or none of us." And they would walk out of restaurants, they would leave hotels, and he had arrangements ahead of time, but it always depends who's working that day, too. And so he'd go into a restaurant just to make sure, I'm bringing my team in, and we want to get served, all of us.
Together.
And we're not coming in the back door. We're coming in the front door, and we're sitting down together. And so he had those expectations, and sometimes he'd come back out to the car, and he'd hop in, and they'd drive someplace else. Because the wrong person was working that day.
I love that, and I wish we could talk so much more about D.L. Holmes, your grandfather, and all of the things that he was able to accomplish here in Detroit and at Wayne State University and beyond. Keith D. Wunderlich is the author of Coach of Champions. He continued the work of his late uncle, D.L. Holmes Jr., the son of D.L. Holmes. Keith, thank you so much for joining us on The Metro.
Thanks for having me, and if anybody's interested, the book's available through Wayne State University Press.
Hosted by Robin Vincent and Tia Graham. The show is produced by Sam Corey, Kerry Jr. II, and Jack Philbrand. Our senior producer is David Lyons. Our engineer is Nate Bender. Music and creative audio production by Sam Bobian. The Metro is a production of WDET-FM, Detroit Public Radio. Your connection to news, music, and conversation.